I am excited you all are along for the ride today. If this is your first time with us, I want to say a special welcome to you. I know we have a lot of first-timers in attendance today. This is a special webinar, as some of you all will see, and then we have a workbook we've sent out beforehand, which is a neat opportunity. We're going to talk through that a little bit in our time together. That's a cool opportunity we don't always do, but something we're excited about offering for you all. So thanks for being here. Thanks for those of you who are along for the first time. A little bit of housekeeping. We are going to have some time for question and answer at the end of our time together today. So if you have questions, feel free to put those into the chat panel as we move along, and we'll get to the chat panel to answer those questions at the end of our time together. But put them in there as soon as you think of them, and we'll circle back and answer as many of those as we can in about the last 10 minutes of our time. This is a lot of content to cover in 50 minutes or so, so bear with us. If you guys have been with us before, you know I talk fast and move really quickly, so buckle in. We're going to go on a ride here together. But other than that, the recording will be emailed out first to next week, assuming the GoToMeeting cooperates with our recordings. I know we had some issues on the one we did a few weeks. But other than that, everything should be on par. Again, please do make sure that if you're logging in right now, that you do keep yourself muted throughout our time together today, just for good quality sound for everybody who's with us. So with that, we will dive in. A little bit about our company. If you're here with us for the first time, Q4Launch specializes in destination marketing, working with many vacation rentals, bed and breakfast, inns, boutique hotels. From Hong Kong to Napa Valley is kind of where our customer base resides. So pretty international experience. And what led us to the topic we're at today is really a lot of the questions we were getting from people in past webinars and so forth, and different things, and trying to put together a cohesive strategy or cohesive plans that are going to increase traffic to our website, with the assumption that if we can increase traffic to our websites, we can increase eyeballs on our property rooms, we can put more heads in bed. So at the end of it, that's really what all the marketing, everything stems down to, is putting more heads in bed and measuring and understanding the return on investment of your efforts. But today we're going to share the strategy that we use on behalf of our customers. We're going to teach it exactly how we use it. You're going to have the workbook available for you. If you have that, if you have dual monitors, it's a great opportunity to put one on one monitor, put the other on the other. If you don't, you can print a copy and track along, or you can spend some time tracking along kind of afterwards, possibly with a recording or something. But we're going to teach you the strategy that we've used and use on a daily basis to drive significant results. If you execute this, top-notch, world-class, varies by everybody, but what we see is about a 25 to 40% increase in traffic in your first year. So if you took this strategy, made it yours, and executed it top-notch, you could expect to see about 25 to 40% increase in traffic in your first year. So with that expectation set, hopefully with your appetite whetted a little bit, we'll kind of dive straight in here and dive in to the mind of a vacationer. When we're talking about marketing, and you may have thought I was going straight into strategy one, but I want to set the scene a little bit more for us. When we as a team talk about marketing, it's really important for us to try to get inside the mind of your customer, and that's the vacationer. Google released a study in 2011, and many of you heard me teach on it before, but basically what the study found is that the vacation process actually consists of 5 steps or stages. The first is dreaming, the second is planning, the third is booking, the fourth is experiencing, and the fifth is remembering. And you may say, well, that's pretty obvious, right? That's pretty common sense. And really it is. Like, once you see it laid out, it's pretty common sense. But what you need to be thinking about as a marketing director or as a property owner is how does your marketing and how does the different strategies within your marketing meet the very specific different stages of the travel cycle or the vacation process. Most everybody focuses their efforts on the booking stage, and that's valid because that's where money is changing hands. But if you do that and you ignore dreaming and planning, you've ignored 2/3 of the sales cycle. And honestly, it's where the majority of the sales cycle is spent. When people are researching and looking into and trying to figure out what destination do they want to go to. And once they've decided that, where do they want to stay? Do they want to go one part of the market or another? Do they want to go luxury, or is this just more of a everyday style trip? And there's a lot of decisions being made, and you need to produce remarkable marketing that speaks to those different stages. So as you develop that, you start developing some of your buyer personas, you can kind of figure out a little bit, what type of marketing is going to respond, are people going to respond to at the different stages of the vacation process? The other thing that this is really important for us, and one of the ways we've kind of flipped this research study internally a little bit and changed the way we think about it, is when Google laid it out, all the graphics they put out around it, which this is a graphic we kind of came up with on our own here, but the graphics they came out with showed this as a 1 through 5 linear process. And one of the things that our staff has talked a lot about, and one of our goals and desires as we market our customers, is to take this from a linear process and turn it into a cyclical process. So as we move from thinking about this linearly, where people move from 1 to 3 to 4 to 5, we think about it cyclically and say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then if we have good marketing, we take them from remembering back to dreaming. Now we're going to talk about some ideas today that will really help you tie into getting your past customers who you gave a great experience to, and that's what I love about this industry, is the incredible experiences we provide to our guests. But then using great marketing as they're in the remembering stage to take them back to the dreaming stage. For example, I book a trip every summer for a big group of friends. We go up to a lake house in northern South Carolina. We're in Charleston, if you all didn't know that, Charleston, South Carolina. So every year I take a group of my friends up to a vacation rental, because there's about usually 10 to 20 of us, depending on the group, and we rent a lake house for 3 or 4 days and just kind of have a big time on the lake and celebrate and do all that. But I'm kind of in that process right now, the dreaming and planning phase of booking that vacation for this coming August. But I'm also, as I'm talking to my friends about this, still in that remembering phase, because we're talking about all those memories we made last summer on that trip. And in the same way, I just got back from an anniversary trip with my wife, and we're talking about all the memories we made this last weekend on our vacation, or on our anniversary vacation. So as we move from remembering, we move back to that dreaming phase, and if marketing companies and us as property owners are doing our jobs well, we can move our guests from remembering back to dreaming. So with that, let's dive in and start taking a look at some of our strategies here. Strategy number 1, send more email. It sounds so basic, and if you've been on webinars with us before, you've heard me talk about the power of email marketing. You wouldn't believe the data that we have on this. We just wrapped up a monthly staff meeting where we get together and look at key performance indicators for all of our customers, and the data we have on email marketing in this unbelievably massive spreadsheet that we use and talk through is really remarkable. But what that data tells us month after month after month as we look at it and analyze it and look for ways to improve for our customers is that send more email. And we had a whole other conversation about it today with a few specific customers. Can we ramp up our email marketing efforts here even more than we already are and get a similar return on our investment? So as we talk about email marketing, we run into this common misconception quite a bit, and that's that my guests don't want more email. We think that because 1 or 2 guests have said, I don't want to get more email, I don't want to get that 1 or 2 people represents our entire guest population. But what we know from studying this stuff is that the American worker spends 28% of their workday on email. That is a massive amount of time. That's about 2+ hours every day spent on email. And if you ask the American worker if they want, which is most of our customers, right, and a lot of retirees in that group as well, so they're spending a little bit less time on it, but if you ask those people if they want to get more email, they're immediately going to think about the work email that they get and that they spend 28% of their workday on. But when we think about that same customer and we think about the types of messages we're sending, and this ties back into those 2 stories I told you about taking someone from the remembering stage back to the dreaming and planning stage, your email should be looked forward to by these people because they're spending 28% of their workday going through memos and TPS reports, and you need to come to this meeting, and you need to go there and do this, and all this stuff. But then your email shows up, and it's these beautiful pictures of the experience they had, and it's talking about upcoming events and festivals, and it's giving them reasons to come back and have that experience with you again. So you kind of take them down this stroll down memory lane, and that's a great escape for them. They get a 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes, depending on how good your email campaign is, they get an escape from their workday. But the beauty of it is, if somebody walks by their cube or walks by their office door, they still look like they're working. So they're sitting there checking email, looking like they're working, when in reality they've mentally escaped. They're into that daydreaming phase a little bit, and they're dreaming about that vacation they could come take with you again. And that gets them headed down that path of dreaming headed down that path. I can't even remember it now. Dreaming, planning, booking, experiencing, remembering. I've said that so many times, sometimes you still end up blanking on it. But dreaming, planning, booking, experiencing, remembering. It gets them headed down that path again. So break through some of that common misconception and think about your email as an opportunity to wow your past guests and bring them back to your website again. We do a lot of analytics analysis as well. As we travel and speak and talk to a lot of different people in the vacation industry, we look at a lot of Google Analytics. We look at it for our customers on a daily basis, but help you all understand your analytics and what that data means. And we'll see charts. So this is a consistent chart. This is a chart of one of our customers, but we'll see other charts, and we'll say what happened on June 15th or an example date like that. I'll say, all right, Joe, we're talking. What happened on June 15th? And Joe's like, well, I don't know, but I see the spike in my traffic. And we dig a little deeper, and we go into traffic sources, and before we know it, we figure out, okay, June 15th, Joe sent out an email campaign. Well, that's awesome, but Joe, why from June 15th, which was almost a year ago in a week, to now have we not seen another spike? And the answer is oftentimes Joe didn't send another email campaign. Joe wasn't in his analytics. Joe didn't understand the power that email campaign has. He didn't have tracking in place. He wasn't monitoring that. But when you use that well, and you're using email marketing and you're sending it consistently, you'll see consistent spikes in traffic. And all of the things that we do, all the different areas that we do marketing in, there's nothing that drives spikes in traffic quite like email marketing. And spikes some people see as a bad thing, but I think it's a great thing because it drives people looking at your property and gets them dreaming about and hopefully planning that next vacation that they might take with you. So let's look at a couple things that make email great and a few tips for that. First, send it twice per month. What we have found is that's the optimal number. One of those highlighting events and happenings, things that can bring people to the area, and the other highlighting packages and specials. So one, you've got a lot of blog content in. The other is a little bit more salesy. So it's more about packages, special, featured room, featured properties, things that are going to actually get people onto your website and looking at that. And as you do that, make sure you're using lots of links to take people back to your site. We've studied depth of content quite a bit from an email perspective as well. And there used to be this concept and this mentality of, well, I need a shallower depth of content. I really want to narrow it down so people see exactly what I want them to take action on. And in certain cases where you're running a campaign, a specific campaign, that's very valid. But what we have found is that the greater your depth of content, the more links you have in your email campaigns, the more content you have there, the more clicks as a whole you're going to get. So as you're thinking about email and you're thinking about what you're going to feature there, look at depth of content. Another big tip for you here is to use great subject lines. For an example, 10 things you have to do in Charleston this summer. If I've come to Charleston before as a traveler, maybe I've never been there in the summer. I've heard it's really hot, but I've never been there. Maybe I was there last December. But this subject line in my email box catches my attention. 10 things I have to do in Charleston this summer. Well, I have to click on it, right? I've got to know what these 10 things are. I can't go on living until I know what these 10 things are. So it gives me that reason to open the email and then to click through. This is most likely an example where we would have published a blog with the same title, and we would have used this as an opportunity to get people through our blog and start them thinking about the types of things they could do in Charleston this summer if they took another vacation to come stay with us. They already know us. They already know the Charleston market. Maybe here's 10 things they haven't thought about. 10 things that even though while it is very hot in summer, and it's usually a slower time in the Charleston market, here's great things to do, whether it's a water park that maybe the kids would love to do if you're a kid-friendly property, or it's the beaches of Charleston, great no matter if you have kids or not, great time going out to the beaches, just looking for different things to do and featuring that blog content in an email campaign and using a great subject line. Pretty obvious the example here, what not to do, is Charleston Newsletter Issue 6. It blows my mind how many people are still sending newsletters with a naming sequence like this. Nobody cares if this is issue number 6 of your newsletter. I don't think anyone's like, oh my gosh, I can't wait for issue number 7. Maybe if your content's that remarkable, someone is, but even then, that sequence of 6, 7, 8 doesn't really matter to them. They want to know what's in the campaign. So show them a little bit of teaser with a great subject line like that. Here's a few tips for the great content in a campaign. Make sure that your content matches your subject line. So don't lead with 10 things to do this summer in Charleston and then talk about the Christmas parade that's going to happen, right? That just doesn't click. So make sure your subject line matches your content. And that probably seems pretty obvious, but you'd be amazed how many times campaigns miss out on this. use great photos to create an emotional response. We stress it. We actually are about to publish or just published, I have to check with our marketing team, a blog about great photography and the power that that can have. But if you don't have great photography, definitely make an investment in that. If you do have it, don't think it's reserved just for your website. Your email is a great place to use photography that can elicit an emotional response. Because if you elicit that emotional response, that's what's going to start the buying process for someone. They make emotional decisions, just like I was talking about with reminiscing about memories. Memories are emotional beings. They're emotional pieces of our body. We want to pull on that emotional, that heartstring, that memory, to pull people into our photos and pull people into our website and pull people into our property. So can't stress that enough. Use calls to action and buttons to drive clicks. So people want that big flashy button, right? I mean, don't actually make it flash, but make it obvious where you want somebody to click. Make sure you're using calls to action and buttons throughout your campaigns, and link as much as you can. Link headlines, link images, link read more buttons. The more you can link, the more likely you are that that person is going to click on something. You have to remember that consumers they learn in different ways. I'm a very visual person, so I learn very much by photos, and I want to see and click on and experience photography. My wife learns more by reading and doing that. So she's going to be, and how that translates is, I'm going to click on the photo in your email campaign. And if that photo doesn't take me where I want to go, that's a problem for me as a consumer. Your marketing has failed at that point. But my wife is going to click on the headline because she's reading all your text. She's the person who reads all that stuff. She's going to click on your headline, and that needs to be linked to make sure that she gets where she needs to go on your website. So think about consumers. Think about the way they behave. Work some consumer behavior into your marketing. You'll be amazed at the results from a click-through rate perspective that you'll see in your email marketing. And then expect to see results and don't give up. Don't be Joe in that story I told earlier where he sent one campaign and then got busy doing something else and gave up and never sent another one. He saw results, but he didn't know it because he wasn't in his analytics regularly, so he gave up and he didn't do it anymore. Even if you try it 2-3 months, don't give up after 2-3 months. Keep after it, and you'll see great success from that over a period of time. And as you're thinking about, okay, where should my email marketing be performing? I think I'm doing all these things you've talked about, Matt, but how do I know if I'm performing well? Kind of a general rule of thumb we use is that if you're sending 2 campaigns per month, about 8% of your database should be clicking through to your website and measured as monthly traffic on your website. So as you're looking at that, think about your database size, multiply by 8%, and that's a good monthly traffic goal for you. If yours is below that, chances are your email marketing isn't performing as well as it could be. If it's above that, that's awesome. It's outperforming. This is well above the industry average. The industry average is about 4%. So we set an expectation for ourselves as about twice the industry average. We encourage you all to do that same thing. Of course, there's always outliers here. There are things like list quality and some of those other things that will affect this percentage. But as a general rule of thumb, that will get you where you want to go. So today, in the abbreviated time we have, we don't have time to spend time in our workbooks, but one to let you know, this is kind of, if you're tracking along and you're watching the recording, this would be a great time for you to pause it, open your workbook. Don't actually pause me because we're live now, but if you're watching the recording, pull out your workbook and you'll see them. A couple calls to action for you built into the workbook. One, my database is blank contacts with an 8% click-through rate. I can drive blank website visits. This isn't on the screen, but it'd be in your workbook if you have that handy. And then an email campaign planner where you have main topic and then subtopic 1, subtopic 2. So that's a pretty shallow depth of content, just 3 topics you want to cover, but you can expand on that and make it bigger. And then a call to action. What call to action am I going to use to get somebody to click through here? And then where's my link destination? And that's really just where on the website do I want somebody to go. So it's a good planning document. You'll also see we encourage you to write 5 potential subject lines. What this does is the first one is usually pretty good, right? I mean, you write your first kind of gut subject line down, and that's fine. The second one usually is pretty terrible, right? Because you're digging, and you're like, I don't know, and you write your second one down. But the third, the fourth, and the fifth kind of force you to dig deep and think more creatively. And oftentimes, when you go to that third, fourth, and fifth subject line for the same campaign, they'll have kind of a creative breakthrough and come up with a really cool campaign subject line that will help you boost that click-through rate. So that's why we encourage you to do that. Practice we use quite a bit to help break through some creative barriers and force deeper, more creative thinking. So let's keep moving. I told you we were going to move fast today. I'm going to pause 2 seconds to drink some coffee, and we're going to keep chugging along and talk about writing more blogs. All right. Well, hopefully you caught your breath as well. Strategy number 2 is write more blogs. A common misconception about blogs we run into is that no one reads blogs anymore. Nobody cares about what I'm serving for breakfast or where I'm having my coffee this afternoon or whatever. And you're right. Nobody cares about those things. But if that's what you think blogging is, you've missed the point completely. But when we look at internet marketing as a whole, blogging or content marketing is the fastest growing segment of internet marketing. And we measure this by how many people are learning about it, searching for it, and getting information on Google about it. So it's the fastest growing segment of internet marketing for a reason, and that reason is that it works. It helps people discover your brand when they're looking for things in your area, and I'm going to show you some great examples of that here in a minute. But a couple other important things here is that all Google updates ever, panda, pigeon, penguin, any fuzzy pea animal you can think of that Google has named an update or an algorithm update after, every single one has rewarded great content creation and blogging as a part of it. They've all done different things to try to make the algorithm better, but the one thing that's been consistent across every one is that great quality content consistently created has been rewarded by the Google algorithm updates. And then that last piece there I mentioned a minute ago, but when people are asking Google questions, Google needs to be showing them your site. And this isn't the typical stuff like bed and breakfast Charleston or vacation rentals Charleston. Those are more search engine optimization keywords or SEO, which is a whole other thing. But this is things like the best lobster tail in Kennebunkport, Maine. I was just up in Kennebunkport speaking at a conference a few months back, and that was what I was wondering. I was searching for the best lobster tail in Kennebunkport, Maine, as I was preparing and planning my trip, right back to planning in the vacation stage. As I was planning, I wanted to know where I was going to go get that lobster tail. So as we think about that, I was asking Google questions, and Google helps me find my answers. So this is a great example of what this looks like. Cape Cod Shark Adventures. Cape Cod Shark Adventures is a particular excursion or activity that we saw a lot of search traffic about. There's only 105,000 search results. You'll see that up here at about 105,000 results for this specific topic. So that tells me it's not all that competitive. That seems like a big number, but in Google's world, it's actually not. So we wrote a blog for one of our customers on the Cape named Chatham Gables Inn. We published this blog last year in July. Great summer blog as people are coming up. Very seasonal destination. And you'll see now, almost a year later, this blog is still ranked 3rd on Google for this search term. And I checked it again this morning to make sure it was still there. But is ranked 3rd on Google a year later. So we've been getting traffic for this blog for over a year now. And the only people who are outranking us for this is the actual company themselves. Their website and their Facebook page is outranking us. Other than that, we're the top one. They're like, yeah, but Matt, we're not selling Shark Adventures. I get that. But when people are planning their vacation to Cape Cod and they're checking out Shark Adventures and they see it on TripAdvisor and they want to know about that, and then they see Chatham Gables Inn blog, Cape Cod Shark Adventures If You Dare, like, oh, that sounds cool, I want to check that out. And what that does is it helps us get our customer found for this search term. Nobody might know, or these people might not know Chatham Gables Inn exists right now. But through this search discovery, through finding their blog, they now know that the place exists. And when they're planning their trip, when they move from planning to booking, they know Chatham Gables Inn is a booking option for them. And if they have a beautiful website that draws that user in and great photography, they're all going to work that much better to bring this in. So we looked at this just this year to date to give you an idea of how this one blog post has performed for this customer. And this year to date, so January 1 through June 6th, I think was the cutoff period, this has brought 357 visits to the website. So 357 people found Chatham Gables Inn that wouldn't have found them before had this blog not been written just in this year. And you'll see that huge increase in traffic there. That's because of the seasonality of the destination. More people are going. This is also a very seasonal blog post. So more people are going in the summer seasons than in the winter season. You see that little blip there at the end of April, beginning of May where traffic dropped. Most likely, some reason, Google dropped our blog post in the rankings and then brought it back. So we'll see that from time to time as well. They'll move things around, but we know right now our blog's ranked pretty high because we're getting good traffic for it. Just in the month of May, this brought us 142 visits to the website. And if you've got 50,000 visits to your site, 142 may not seem like that many, but if you've got a couple thousand, it's a big percentage. Either way, the point is that this is one blog, and this is the results from one post. When we look at this customer who's been with us about a year and a half now, all of their blogs together, just in the month of May, drove 872 visits to their website. So it's a significant amount of traffic you can get from this strategy. As we're looking at strategies to increase traffic, this is a really important one because it will definitely help you increase traffic to your site. So here's 7 elements of a great blog post. You might be catching a trend that we like the number 7. But 7 elements of a great blog post. 1, start with a keyword or phrase in mind. In the example I showed, it's Cape Cod Shark Adventures. And then repeat it 3 to 4 times. Make sure it's in your URL, make sure it's in your blog title, and then repeat it 3 to 4 times in your actual post. Write 500 to 700 words. Anything less than 300 words, we still see a lot of people blogging less than 300 words. Google ignores that. So if it's just news you want people to have who are on your site, fine. But if you want Google to find it, they're going to pretty much ignore anything less than 300 words. And 500 to 700 is the ideal range that we target. Make sure you include an image or 2, or depending on what you're writing, maybe a lot more images. Because images are going to draw that person in, they're going to improve the amount of time they spend on the blog, and they're going to make them stay longer. And make sure you include 2 internal and external links. Internal links are links to other parts of your website, like maybe search availability or check out our rooms or things like that. Think about this user. Think about this is the place they're entering your website, so they don't know your property or you're in yet. And then 2 external links. Google doesn't like to see dead ends on the web. So if your blog is a dead end and they can't get anywhere else from there, that's not a good sign. It's not going to help you rank. So in this case, great opportunity to link out to Cape Cod Shark Adventures, and then maybe possibly some other places to link. Just try not to link to places you've got a lot of competition. So not linking back to the lodging page on your visitors bureau, or not linking back to anywhere else that they're going to see a lot of your competition. Make sure that you're not linking to those people. So, and then use white space. Make sure you use some white space. If somebody lands on a page and it's all text, they're going to bounce off pretty quick. So use white space and photography and bulleted lists and numbered lists to your advantage. And then share it all over. You can't publish this thing too many times. Share it in social media. Share it at your cocktail hour. Share it in your email marketing campaign. Share it in other blogs. You know, get Cape Cod Shark Adventures to put it in their blog that you wrote a blog about them. Get it shared all over the place. Boost it on social media if you boost posts. And then this is one of the most important, and it's post weekly. What we have found is you have to be posting weekly for a consistent amount of time before Google's going to reward your blogging efforts. There's a lot of people who have fits and starts of blogging, and they expect to see immediate results, and that's just not how it works. What we have found, and this regardless of seasonality, regardless of anything else, this chart is consistent across every customer we work with. In their first few months, they see almost no results. And somebody who's trying to do this on their own and they're committing 2, 3, 4, 5 hours a week to writing a great blog post is going to quit 95% of the time within those first 3 months because they haven't seen any results. The rest of life and running a business gets kind of a burden on them, and they quit at this point. And I think that Google knows that. They know 95% of people are going to quit. They're not going to commit to posting weekly because they just can't physically do it. It takes too much time, or they just don't enjoy it. They want to spend their time doing other things. But what we have found as a result of that is that you won't see results until 3 to 6 months. So each one of these little dots represents a month in our Google Analytics. And what you see is that the 6th through 7th month is really when our results start ratcheting up. So if you're going to produce content, you've got to commit to at least 3 to 6 months. If you can't commit to that, regardless of the results that you see, I would tell you not to even try starting, because you're just going to be wasting your time if you can't commit that much kind of timeline to it, because that's really what it takes to be successful. And if you, as you're kind of working on your workbooks here, strategy number 2 in your workbooks has a blogging idea generator. So we help you through the idea generator work out your first 17 blog posts. So there's some questions in there that will help you get your first 17 blog posts planned out, and then you can use the Google AdWords tool to actually do keyword research to figure out, okay, based on that keyword, what do I want to actually make my blog title? What am I going to target there? So break out your workbooks when you have time and check that out. It's on there on page 3, I believe, in your workbook. So strategy number 3, we're going to move a little bit faster, spend a lot of time on 1 and 2, but strategy 3 here, use social media to stay top of mind. And one of the misconceptions we run into, and I talked about this a little earlier, but no one cares that I'm drinking coffee today. I'm drinking coffee all day, every day, and my staff most of the time is making fun of me for it, but other than them, nobody really cares that I'm drinking coffee today, and I'm on like cup number 8. But I do. But that's not the point of social media, right? I'm not tweeting or posting on Facebook or putting on Instagram my 8th cup of coffee for the day. It's just not important. But what is important is I'm sharing great photos, especially ones that elicit emotional responses, right? Going back to that emotional response, when I was planning that trip for my wife and I for our anniversary, I knew it was important to her to have a place to just sit by the pool and just relax for the day. Like, she didn't want to do a whole lot. I'm real active. I want to go biking and play tennis or play golf, do all these things. She just wants to sit by the pool. So when I was looking at social media pages and trying to figure out, okay, where should we go, the pool was one of the big things I was looking for because I knew that was important to her. So I was going through social media pages looking for pool shots. I was looking for a couple things. One, I was looking for how many crazy kids are posting these pool shots because I know she just wants some peace and quiet to relax. But I was also looking for the quality of the overall pool, right? Is it a good quality pool so she can have a nice experience there? Because I care about making sure that that's great for her. So in that case, social media worked really well for me. It didn't necessarily create my booking, but it persuaded who I decided to book with at the end of the day because those were the things I was looking for. A lot of us get overwhelmed by social media, so I skipped ahead a little bit to talk about that. But if you're overwhelmed by social media and you can't do them all, and nobody can, like, do them all well unless you've got a full-time, all-I-do-is social media person. But if you're overwhelmed by it, focus on doing 1 to 2 platforms really well. And do the platforms that just make the most sense to you, right? Instead of forcing yourself to learn Twitter, if you just love Instagram or you love Facebook and you're on there anyways and that makes sense to you and you understand the medium, just do those really, really well, and don't worry about Twitter. If you're a Twitter addict and you're constantly on there, you're tweeting at people and you're tagging people and you're getting your news there and everything else, but, man, you're not a great photo taker or whatever else, maybe Instagram's not for you. So you're focusing on Facebook and Twitter and doing that. But really just find what works for you and focus on doing 1 to 2 platforms really well. And then as you're doing that, build relationships in your local community by connecting with other pages, tagging them in your posts. Tag Q4 Launch in your posts. We'll share that back out to other people and through different places that we're using content. So share your post with us. Tag us in your posts. Connect with your guests and their friends by posting pictures of your guests if they let you, right? Make sure you ask, but make them the star. More than anything in our day and age, people want to be the star. That's one of the things social media has showed us to be, and that's a whole other psychological conversation for another day, but make them the star, and they'll share it, they'll tag it, they'll tweet it, they'll do all that stuff. Of course, make sure you have their permission to do that before you do. But there's some people we see who do this really well in this space. And then once you build this following, once you have all these people engaged with you, have all these people following you, it's a great opportunity to post last-minute availability, especially during peak times, and then boost it locally. So if you've got a last-minute cancellation or last-minute availability, it's a great way to post a picture of that property or room and then boost that to people who are in what we call our drive-in markets, people who could make a last-minute trip. Usually that's a 2 to 4 hour driving distance, depending on your area and how far apart everything is. But you can define in Google how far away you want to target an audience, and you can boost it just to your local audience who might make a last-minute trip, or who maybe lives in your same town but's never really wanted to spend the money to stay at your property, but they might do a staycation if there was a last-minute deal available for somebody. So great opportunity, great ways to use social media there. And then one of our big goals here we talk a lot about is to grow at 5 to 10% per month. This is an account that we took over last June, and it's just an example of kind of what we see when we take over accounts. You'll see they were growing pretty slow. April, May, June, had about 1,000 or so fans. We took over in June, and since then have been growing at faster than 5 to 10% per month, but a goal of 5 to 10% per month is a really good place to set a goal for yourself. And this is important, right? It's numbers, but it's important because going back to that boosting it locally and reaching audiences and getting people to share your content, the more people who are following you in social media, and this is a specific Facebook clip, but the more people following you there, the more reach you have and the more messages you have that can get out to people. The more opportunities people have to see your message, the more it can spread virally through social media. So definitely encourage you to check that out. Use that as an opportunity to grow your following and extend your reach, which is an important thing as we're measuring the effectiveness of marketing, is your overall reach. All right, so if you open your workbooks, there's some great items here for you. And strategy number 3, use social media to stay top of mind. Not going to dive through all those, but you have an opportunity there to choose the networks you really want to focus on. Choose a place where you're going to get great photos to share, and then say, I'm going to frequently post about and tag these 5 pages to build referral relationships. So an opportunity to identify other businesses in your area that you can share their content, you can tag them, to build relationships in your local communities. So let's keep moving along here. Strategy number 4 is do the SEO basics to succeed. And I put in parentheses there, at the least, because at the very least, you need to be doing the SEO basics. And there's still a lot of people, which is crazy in 2015, but a lot of people who aren't even doing the basics. So get the basics down. This is stuff you can do absolutely on your own. And then once you have this stuff done, and you're looking to take your overall search engine strategies to the next level, then that's really where we encourage you to engage a professional. We don't encourage people to do a lot of SEO on their own, because you can absolutely screw things up if you don't do it well. Unlike some of the other areas where, if you kind of commit a party foul, it doesn't always necessarily come back to bite you. SEO with blacklisting and spam links and a lot of those other things, it can come back to bite you. So as we look at the SEO basics at least, this is what we're talking about. Claim and optimize your Google Plus page and make sure that you're posting to it at least, every once in a while. It's a good opportunity to succeed because there's so few people doing it, so people using that platform that it can help you from an SEO perspective. Make sure you're including your website address. We've run into multiple occasions where industry associations actually came down and claimed a local company or local properties Google Plus page, and they weren't trying to be malicious at all when they did it. They, a staff person just, got confused doing whatever they were doing, I'm sure. But what happened was they claimed that page, put their own website address, and then stole a ton of traffic from that person as a result. Fortunately, because we were in their analytics, we identified when it happened very quickly because we saw a drop in Google organic traffic, and we were able to dive in and get that situation rectified for that customer. But if you weren't in your Google Analytics regularly and someone else had come in and claimed your page, which can happen from time to time, they can go through a process and claim that, and it doesn't necessarily always work out in the way it's supposed to as far as getting the right person on the right page. But if you're not set up well, you're not tracking your analytics, your website address isn't in there, it's going to be a lot easier for somebody else to claim that. So make sure you've included your website address and you're using that to get traffic back to your site. Again, use great photos. It's like on every strategy we have, it says use great photos, but that's how important it is. No matter what you're doing, if you're going to do it with great photos, and make sure to spend money to get that done. And then drive at least a few reviews to Google Plus. A lot of people use TripAdvisor kind of as their main review source, but you really got to drive at least a few reviews to this platform. And the big thing here is consistency. Getting a few every month is going to be an important piece to getting that to work for you. And then make sure you're in the local map. So Google has toyed with this map quite a bit lately. They've made a lot of changes, and we see a lot of variety in how the map is appearing now. And that's the actual map that you see with businesses mapped on it when you do a local search. But make sure that you're in the local map and you're optimized for those keywords that are driving traffic for you. If you're not on the local map, you really need to be working to get there, because that is the place that local businesses need to own. Any of the national or international third-party directories that are pouring tons and tons of money into marketing, they can't get on the map because they don't have a local address. So this is the local business's place to really shine with Google. Sure, we want to be in the organic listings as well, but we've got to be in the map for sure. And then the next point there, make sure your NAP, or what's called your NAP, so your name, address, and phone number, is uniform across your listings. It seems kind of crazy, and people who use tracking phone numbers, this will drive you nuts, but Google wants to see that your name, address, and phone number are uniform across everywhere it appears on the web. So that's something we actually track for all of our customers, and making sure that their staff, if they're putting things up in different places, directories or what have you, is always using a consistent name, address, phone number. we recommend to people training on this issue with your staff, but then also having a place in your office or on their desk or whatever that is specifically like a note card that says, this is how we display our name, address, phone number. That it's always the same. Is it comma LLC or is it not? Do we abbreviate street or do we not? Do we put a suite number if we have one or do we not? How do we put our state? Do we spell it out or do we abbreviate it? All these different variations of how you can show your address and your phone number with 800 numbers versus 888 versus local numbers. Lots of different ways to display all this information, but get it consistent, because that's a really important thing, and it's something Google looks at quite a bit. And then as we look at organic traffic, if your organic traffic is down year over year, start blogging, right? So you might engage an SEO person to help you with that. That's very valid. But if you're going to try to go it alone, start blogging. Start writing great quality content consistently. Go back to step number 2 and listen to everything I said all over again and start that process. Because if you do that process or that strategy well, it's going to help you here with strategy number 4 in SEO. It's going to drive search traffic for you, and it's going to help your overall keywords, not just the ones you're targeting there, by featuring those in different blog posts to someone else who can help you there, or to those keywords. And then finally, if you're still down, you've done blogging, you've been to 6 months, you're just not seeing what you want to see, if you're still not happy with the results, then reach out to someone who can help you understand a lot. Reach out to a professional, but be careful trying to do too much of this on your own, because you can potentially hurt yourself if you're not doing link building and some of those things the proper way. And it is a little bit complex compared to a lot of other things out there. So definitely something to take into account. And you can open your workbooks there. There's a little bit there for you as well, but didn't want to, again, spend a lot of time there. Strategy number 5 ties back to a little bit what we were talking about having some reviews on your Google Plus page, but TripAdvisor pages as well, and that's to have a 5-star review strategy. And the important thing I want you all to take note of here is that I didn't say have a review strategy or have a reputation management strategy. Specifically, have a 5-star review strategy, because in most cases, the people that we're working with are 4.5-star properties or 4.5-star management companies. And what that means is that if we don't get a 5-star review, we've actually hurt ourselves. So a 4-star review, which the customer thinks they're doing you a favor, they've left you a 4-star review. You're not perfect, but you're pretty stinking good, so I've left you a 4-star review. That actually hurts us and doesn't help us, whereas they love the experience. They think they're helping us. So we have to educate our consumers in a tactful way that we need a 5-star review, and specifically asking for a 5-star review, and then giving them an out. If they can't leave us a 5-star review, contact us. So being real intentional on having a 5-star review strategy, and then phrasing things properly to get the type of action you want your customer to take back. I was just meeting with a vacation rental manager last week. They were coming through Charleston. We grabbed a cup of coffee, and we're talking about a specific issue. And I said, one of the ways you can do this well is to repeat back to your customer what you want them to say about your properties. If location is important, when you send a thank you letter, and this was a smaller manager, so he sent individual thank you letters, or you can manage this by property, depending on what software you have. Say, we hope you had a great experience, and we hope the location was walking distance to everything, just like we told you it would be. What you're doing there is you're telling your customer the things that you want them to say when they write you a review, and you're kind of planting that in their mind subconsciously to then repeat that back to you. So when other people are reading that review, if you know location is really important or cleanliness is really important, cleanliness is always important. Location is a lot of times important. But when they repeat that back, that review is then for the world to see, and you're kind of training them subconsciously on what you want them to repeat to the world in their review. So cool little trick where you can implant things in people's minds. And this, again, all stems back from understanding consumer behavior at the core of your marketing, but implanting that in people's minds and getting to repeat it back to you in their 5-star review. But being at the top of TripAdvisor or whatever review site you're kind of focusing your strategy around will absolutely mean huge traffic for your business. And then find a way to automate that 5-star review strategy as much as possible. TripAdvisor Review Express is a great way to do that. You can use autoresponders just in an email marketing software. We do that quite a bit as well. and then make sure you don't forget about Google+. A lot of people think it's not really used, it's kind of dying, but it's an element of your SEO strategy. So as such, don't forget about it. It's huge traffic from organic search, and a piece of that is getting good quality reviews. So on that, we've got a 5-star review strategy for you there, help you choose which platform you want to be focused on, and then talking about checkout autoresponder emails or Review Express to automate that, as well as helping you kind of think through that whole process a little bit. So you'll find that in your workbooks, and we'll keep moving along here. Strategy number 6, and this is something we're huge on. I've only got a couple minutes, so I don't get to spend as much time on it as I'd like to, but that's set goals for each of your areas. You're like, Matt, how is that a strategy to increase traffic? And it's a strategy to increase traffic because we absolutely subscribe to the mentality at Q4Launch that you get what you measure. And if you're not measuring these goals, you're not holding yourself accountable for them, or you're not holding your staff accountable for them, or you're not holding your marketing company accountable for specific goals, the performance is going to suffer as a result. So set some goals out there. Or as one of the people I'm friends with said, set some big, hairy, audacious goals, because that's going to make you stretch yourself, stretch the way you think about marketing, and go after some pretty strong goals in your overall marketing campaign. So let's take a look at what this might be. Set goals for each of your areas, and then find an accountability partner. In your workbook, there are specific goals you can walk through to go after different parts of your strategy, and it kind of lays it out for you. But I'd encourage you to use that to get you started, and then break free from it a little bit, and really think about what are the goals that are important to your business. What are your key performance indicators that are going to help you put more heads in beds? Because at the end of the day, as we talked about at the beginning, that's what matters. Traffic's important, but only as much as it's contributing to heads in beds. So make sure that you have that, and it will help you hold people accountable. And then also, find an accountability partner for yourself. We teach this a lot at conferences and different meetings. This is one of the things I love when we're in that in-person session, because as I'm talking, people start turning to each other, and they start engaging with each other and asking each other, hey, can you be my accountability partner? Can you help with this? But it's a really important piece to bring that accountability in your life and to kind of welcome that to hold you accountable for what you're going after in your marketing strategy here, and encourage you to do that. Take that very human piece to an internet marketing strategy to drive more traffic. So check that out and connect with somebody who can help you set some goals. And then strategy number 7, it ties kind of in with number 6 a little bit, but review your analytics at least monthly. You absolutely have to be in your data to understand what's going on, what's working, what's not. If you're not in your data on a regular basis, you can't make data-driven decisions. And while we want our consumers to make emotional decisions, we as business owners need to be making data-driven decisions that are based in fact, and we know then how our marketing is performing and where we need to allocate our marketing budgets to get the most out of it. So you absolutely have to be in there at least monthly. If you can be in there weekly is even better, but at least monthly. And if you're working with a marketing company, really lean on them. They should be leading this conversation for you and sending you not just screenshots of analytics, but actual meaningful data that can help you make marketing decisions with what you're spending your marketing budget on. And then the third one there, I always get a lot of questions on that, but run the leaky bucket test to determine sources you're losing traffic from. Essentially what this does is it's going into Google Analytics, and instead of you're seeing your top performing traffic sources, flip that upside down by clicking the little arrow on traffic sources, and it will change to worst performing traffic sources. And then right above that little area is another little drop down where you can change it. It should say the words absolute, and you can change it to whatever the other option is in there. I just totally spaced it, but there's 2 options there. One is absolute, and there's another one, whatever that other one is, change it to that, and it will show you the areas that you're losing traffic from in the current year. And I'm going to pop out of here for just a second and show you this. So I'm going to pause my screen on that, and then I'll pop over here to Google Analytics and show you what I'm talking about so you can see exactly what we're looking at there. I just wanted to take the time to do that. So give me just a second here, and we'll look at Google Analytics together and show you what we're talking about here. All right, so I'm going to make this live again, and if I go over here to acquisition, all traffic, source medium, you'll see this. If I click this session arrow, flip it up, and then I go to sort type default, you've got to set a date range as well. So let's compare this year over year. All right, so it defaults, and this doesn't really help us. This isn't the data we're looking for, but then absolute change, and I can see the sources that my traffic is down from. And this says email marketing. That's actually just been renamed, so I know my own marketing. I know we've actually renamed that, so that doesn't help. We can go through here and see what sources your traffic is down from, and this is what we call the leaky bucket test, because it helps us identify what parts of our traffic is down. So we can say, okay, if we've lost traffic from the Chamber of Commerce or from some other referral partner, it can really help us identify where we need to be bringing traffic back from. And we see that a lot. We see a lot of people who have traffic down from different sources, and they had no idea, and it kind of leads them to diving deep to understand that and where it's down from. But then that last point, you would be surprised what might be hiding in your data. And our customers usually are, when we're just getting going with them, we're going through analytics together to try to understand that. They're oftentimes surprised about what's hiding in that data. And if you're kind of wondering how to figure that all out, you can always email us. We'd be happy to do an analytics analysis with you, or we'd look at your data together to help you understand, run that leaky bucket test I just showed you, and kind of walk through some of those things. But definitely an important thing, something you need to be doing on a regular basis. If you're kind of still stuck trying to figure it all out, right? I mean, one of the things that I love in teaching and helping the industry the way that we do is always helping people take a next step and knowing what their next step needs to be. And for today's webinar, we're offering our free marketing grader. If you've been with us before on a webinar similar to something we've offered this several times. You may have heard this before, but hopefully if you have, you've taken some steps and you can get an updated marketing grader. If you never have, this is a great opportunity to understand what your score is. It gives us an unbiased score from 0 to 100 to know exactly how well your marketing is performing. We can also help you know where that score stacks against your peers, because we run hundreds of these reports and know a ton of data on the industry as a whole, and can help you understand where you're ranking against your peers, and then give you action items to make immediate improvements to your marketing. So it will come with a list of action items that say, if you improve this, it's going to help your marketing perform better. So if you're sitting there, and I've been in those sessions before where you're actually looking at you've been through a talk and you're like, wow, this is awesome. I'm a little bit overwhelmed, but I'm really excited about this. But man, where do I begin? This is a great next step for you, because one of our marketing consultants will connect with you for about a free 30-minute call, walk you through this marketing grader, give you those action items, and help you get on the road to figuring this out. They're also able to answer any specific marketing questions you have that are very specific to your business. So again, we encourage you to take advantage of this. It's not something we do all the time, but because of how time-consuming it is, and with over 100 people registered for today's webinar, we always end up with a little bit of an overwhelming response. So be patient with us. It does take us some time to get everybody scheduled for this, but we'll be happy to do this with you, and somebody from our team will connect with you. After today's webinar, we'll send out a follow-up email. And in that follow-up email will be a link to request this. You'll go to our website. It should populate with your information, and you can just hit request, and you'll be on your way with this. I know we've had a lot of questions coming into the chat panel, so I'm going to click over here and do that. If you have questions, now is a great time to put those in. It's 2:54, so I ran a little longer than I wanted to, but I wanted to show you that leaky bucket test, and then we'll dive into some of these questions here kind of as we move along here. So give me a second to scroll to the top of the chat panel, and we'll see what questions we can answer for you. I had a question from Barbara about not seeing any slides. Hopefully, Barbara, you got that straightened out. We're able to see the slides today. Question from Christy: is there ever such thing as sending as too many links? We use a lot. Based on the time you asked that question, Christy, I'm thinking you're talking about blogging. I would say there's always extremes, right? And yes, there may be a case of using too many links in a blog post. But definitely border on the side of using more than not enough. But 2 in, 2 out is the optimal number that we've really honed in on. You use too many and you start sending people away from your site, which isn't necessarily the goal. We really just don't want it to look like a dead end. So you don't want to send too many, because you don't want people to necessarily leave your site, but kind of finding that balance. We've got a comment from an actual Joe who's on our webinar today. Thanks, because you're funny. I appreciate knowing I'm funny, Joe. Sorry if if we threw you under the bus on using your name as an example, but that wasn't actually who we were talking about. That Joe. That was just a hypothetical Joe. Question here: what is the best way to send email campaigns and not get blacklisted as a spammer? One, make sure that you're sending it to a qualified list, that people that you actually have permission to email to, and you shouldn't get blacklisted there. Two, make sure that you're following the Can Spam Act, which I don't have time to cover, but Google that and you'll see the rules for sending email campaigns. And then third, make sure that you're using an approved software like MailChimp or GetResponse or Constant Contact to send your email marketing campaigns out with, and not just sending them through your own email box, because if you do that, you'll absolutely get flagged as a spammer. So don't do that. You might also get sued, which we don't want that for you. So make sure you're doing that or partnering with somebody that can help you with that if you're not sure about that or not using software to do that. So, and then the big thing is just make sure you're producing quality content, and you shouldn't have issues with people flagging you as a spammer. So, question here from Heather: I'm reticent to use Review Express because I don't want TripAdvisor to have my guest emails. Thoughts on this? TripAdvisor has to have your guest email for them to leave a review. They have to create an account. So, TripAdvisor's got more data and more emails than anybody you can even imagine. So I wouldn't be as concerned about that, Christy, if I was you, or excuse me, Heather, if I was you. But if you're worried about that, you can absolutely use an autoresponder sequence in your own email marketing software. So you could set this up in MailChimp or GetResponse or any of those software elements I talked about earlier. So question from Christy about how about Yelp? Definitely, we see Yelp much more active on the West Coast than we do on the East Coast. But Yelp can be an important platform if you see it driving a lot of traffic set up for you, or driving a lot of traffic to your site. Question here from one of our attendees: we have TripAdvisor set up on auto emails. How to best also do Google+? In that case, Google+ does not have an automated platform like that. You would have to use your own email marketing software, like I spoke to just a minute ago there, and you'd be able to do that through that automated email marketing software. And anytime someone checks out, you can do that. Depending on your booking engine, many booking engines also have that built in, so that's another way to do that. Question from Nancy: should an inn that is only open seasonally do blogging while they are closed, and if so, what do you blog about? Absolutely great question, Nancy. If you're closed seasonally, most of our inns who are closed seasonally, and we represent a good number of them, they still accept bookings year-round. So for that reason, we want our marketing to be active, because if we're actively accepting bookings, marketing needs to be active. But the other thing is Google doesn't necessarily, yes, they know you're closed seasonally because it's in your Google Plus page, hopefully, and different places on your website, but they don't see it that same way within the search algorithm. So they're not necessarily going to differentiate between people that are closed seasonally and not based on that criteria. So because of that, yes, I would blog all the time. And what should I blog about? We base a lot of what we're blogging about around seasonality of search, which we see through the AdWords tool. But I would just be blogging about things to do in the area. Maybe not things to do in the area today, but things to do in the area when you are open. Because as I showed you with that Cape Cod shark fishing, that blog has been ranked for over a year and bringing us traffic for over a year. So even if you're writing something in December that doesn't happen until July, it's hopefully, if you do it well, it's going to be ranked in July. It's going to be ranked for quite a while. So it will pay dividends for you down the road, not just when you post it. So hopefully that helps you. Question from Christy about the version of Google Analytics we were on. It is not the paid version of Google Analytics. That is the free version of Google Analytics. So you should have all of that available for you. A question here from Mr. Fry. It's just guessing off your screen name there. Do you have available the workbook for revenue management talk from last week or so? For those of you who weren't here, last week or the week before, we did a webinar on yield management or revenue management. We didn't have a workbook associated with that, but if you'll email me, we'd be happy to share some information we have with you on that. So my email is on the screen there. You can email me and we'll connect with you on revenue management and share some of what we shared last week. That recording didn't work for us, so we're going to be reteaching that webinar. So if you're interested in that, and this is the first time you've heard about it, you'll get an email from us now that you've been on one of our webinars, and we'll invite you to that webinar as we reteach that. I think in July is when we're looking at doing that. So thanks for that question. Question here from Lori. We have a boutique website. And my first comment would be, well, that's unfortunate. Give that up as soon as you can. And they don't really have a blog platform. Absolutely. That's one of the problems with that platform. Do you recommend using the format that exists within their site or using an external blog format such as WordPress and linking to it? Great webinar. Well, thanks, Lori. Appreciate the great webinar content comment. It's also great to hear from you, Lori. Lori's a great friend of ours and mine from years past. Been on our webinars for years. But Lori, I'd encourage you to get away from boutique. I think we may have had this conversation previously, but for anybody who's listening, I would encourage you to get away from it, really moving your site onto a platform that will let you do everything you need it to do. Boutique is very limited from a blogging perspective as well as an SEO perspective overall. And I don't know what your agreement is, but most people are on a monthly payment agreement with them, and it's just not worth the cost if you're really trying to market your website well. So, Lori, feel free to shoot me an email. We'd be happy to talk about helping you get off of that boutique platform and looking at some different options for you there. So definitely reach out to us on that, Lori. And then a question from Chris, was this Eastern time? Yes, we started at 2 p.m. Eastern time. Apologize if you were just logging in, if you're in a different time zone. But we'll have a recording available for you. So if you did miss it, logged in late, definitely check out the recording. Question from Javier, how much time spent by a visitor in your website is good? That ranges quite a bit based on the type of lodging property you are, so forth. If you're an inn or a boutique hotel, 3 to 5 minutes is pretty good. If you're a vacation rental company with a lot of properties under management, we want to see that number more like 5 to 12 minutes. Some really general rules of thumb there, but hopefully that's helpful for you. But that'd be a great question to ask our marketing team through a marketing grader. We'd be able to look at your specific situation and help you understand what's good for you and so forth. So Elizabeth Marmol has a question. What platform do you recommend? I assume based on the timing there, you're asking about the website platform. We, of course, recommend our own. We have our website platform we've developed. We actually give that away for free to our customers. So if that's something you're interested in, Elizabeth, email us. We'll be happy to give you more information on that. Other than that, if you're not, you're trying to do something else, the WordPress platform is what we really recommend building it upon in the first place. That's what ours is built upon. Even though we give it away for free, it's still built on WordPress. But having a site built on WordPress will give you a ton of flexibility and control over what you need to do there. So Elizabeth, be happy to connect with you. Please shoot me an email and we'll share that information with you. Question from Chris, how long in content should a blog consist of? Great question, Chris. We recommend blog posts consisting of 500 to 700 words of content and then several images in each of those blog posts as well. So that's a couple slides back. If you check out the slides or if you watch the recording, we went through a whole bunch of information. I'm guessing you kind of came in late there, but there will be a lot of information for you on the recording about that specific issue. But the quick answer is 500 to 700 words. That's all the questions we have are over our time for today, and I want to be very respectful of your time and end here as quickly as we can. So thank you all for attending the webinar today. If we weren't able to get to a question you had, I know we have a lot of them, please email us or take advantage of that free marketing grader. That's a great opportunity to one-on-one get more in-depth answers to your questions as well, and we'll send that out to you afterwards. And again, thanks everyone for attending our webinar, 7 Strategies for Increasing Traffic to Your Website. I encourage you to check out our blog, q4launch.com/blog, as well as our Facebook page, facebook.com/Q4Launch, and stay tuned for future webinars. We're doing several more we have planned and scheduled coming up, so great topics coming up. Encourage you all to keep an eye out for those, and we'll look forward to seeing you on a future webinar. If there's any other questions we can answer, please email or call us. All our information is there on the screen. Thanks, everybody. Have a great rest of your day.